Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are talking about a ship that it's been a hot minute since I played this thing, and one that I've always heard very interesting opinions on, and that is the Tier 9 British battleship, the Lion. Now, the Lion is a ship that I've seen time and time again in my comment section when I'm talking about usually ships like the FDG and the Ismo. These Tier 9 tech line battleships that have terrible reputations and are considered to be some of the worst, if not the worst, battleships in game. In those comment sections, I normally see Lion's name brought up saying, oh, Lion's terrible, it's garbage, it's completely useless. And this is something that has been with Lion since she was released. She was considered to be kind of the worst Conqueror before you get to the Conqueror. And it's interesting in my mind that that's been the general opinion on the Lion. Now, again, these are originally going off of comments that I heard, 3 years ago, 4 years ago when the British battleship line was released in full, but that still seems to carry over to today's player base, at least a very vocal minority, if anything. Again, from what I've seen here on my comment section, I did go peruse the forums and such, that still seems to be the general consensus on the Lion, which is very odd in my mind, because I think the Lion's actually a really solid Tier 9 battleship. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's an amazing battleship that's completely misunderstood or anything like that. I just don't see how someone can consider this ship to be a piece of trash, garbage, useless, whatever you want to call it, battleship, because she has a lot going for her. But we'll start with the bad, in my opinion at least, about the Lion. First off, her turret angles are atrocious. In order to get all 9 guns on target, you have to show a very uncomfortable amount of side with the Lion in order to get your 9 guns on target. And that is also made worse by her accuracy. It's not really that great. She has 1.85 sigma, but a maximum horizontal dispersion of 253 meters at 21.1 kilometers. So, yeah, her horizontal dispersion is not great. And she is, of course, quite squishy. She is a British battleship covered in 32 millimeters of armor, and she's a ship that's not overtly hard to farm down with HE, or, of course, with the larger caliber guns that we have plenty of at Tier 9 and above. I mean, we have so many 457 millimeter and above guns now at Tier 9, 10, and, of course, super ships for this ship to deal with. And those, in my opinion, are her main downsides. Which I can 100% understand how someone that's having to, of course, stay bow in to not get vibe checked by a super ship is perceiving the Lion as a piece of trash when they keep getting terrible dispersion. But what I can't see is how someone can say that when the ship has a 25-second reload when you take the reload module on the Lion. A 25-second reload. So keep in mind, this is a Tier 9 battleship with 9 16-inch guns, which those are quite good guns for the tier. I mean, that's, I would say, the standard armament of Tier 9 battleships, 8 or 9 guns, and these are 16-inch guns, and you can get the 419mm 16-inch guns too with the Lion, and a 25-second reload with the module. So, that right there, before we even get to talking about the AP and the HE, that's pretty solid firepower, especially with that reload time. So now let's talk about the HE and the AP. So first off, of course, the HE, she has British Battleship HE. It's quite good. You have a 48% chance of causing a fire per shell, per salvo, which means that, per gun per salvo, it's something like a 99% chance, I think, if you add all of the guns up together, which is pretty darn good. And again, this is HE that you get to sling at the enemy every 25 seconds before you add in adrenaline rush. It can pin 105 millimeters of armor. It has a alpha of 7,200 which is pretty darn good. So you have British BBHE with, of course, the good alpha. And of course, you're going to rip the secondaries and AA guns off of whatever you're targeting every 25 seconds. And you're starting plenty of fires with this thing. And then, of course, the AP is the British Short Fuse AP, which has a maximum damage of 13,000. And if you catch a cruiser broadside with it, it's going to, of course, pin and Citadel. And because it's a Short Fuse AP, it doesn't pin as hard as the other Battleship AP does. So instead of overpinning the ship, you're going to pin him and probably Citadel the living crap out of him thanks to its very short fuse time. Again, every 25 seconds. Now, don't get me wrong, too. This AP is actually decent against battleships because you can shoot the bow and stern and the extremities of battleships and still do some nice solid damage rather than overpin them and do minimal damage. So, yeah, none of those shells, either of the HE or the AP, every 25 seconds, which is pretty darn good. Now, going back to its survivability, yes, she doesn't have amazing armor. She doesn't have amazing survivability just looking at the hull, or her hit pool is of course quite low. But she does finally get access to the improved British battleship hill, the Super Hill. This is a hill where you can, and you'll see it in the background footage, simply reprint your ship every 80 seconds. You can regen 2/3 of your ship's HP just about every 80 seconds. So while yes, you have a lower hit pool than other Tier 9 battleships, and yes, you don't have the best armor, it's still 32 millimeters plating. It's not like you're one of the battle cruisers with 25 or 27 millimeters plating. You still have 32, so you can, of course, bow tank anything that's not a 460 millimeter and above shell, which again, there are more of those in today's game. And then you can simply reprint your ship back. So HE doesn't really bother you. Well, fires really don't bother you. Normal damage doesn't bother you from either HE or AP. Citadel damage, of course, you do get Citadel. That does suck, but I mean, still, with the changes that have been made to her armor scheme, it's pretty difficult to Citadel the Lion. So you have all that in one package, which is pretty darn solid in my mind. The background footage, for instance, this is something that was happening to me a lot Friday night. I had enemy teams that just ran the second they saw my team. I don't know. I mean, even with the way that higher tier games have been going recently, sure, the engagement ranges are typically much longer, but usually the enemy team will stick around. They just hang back. But man, these teams I was getting this night, they just saw us and said, all right, bye, and left. So while the background footage certainly isn't any amazing footage by any stretch of the imagination, I mean, even though the ships are running away, they're steeply angled, I'm still able to throw HE at them and do over 100,000 damage. Now, just over 100,000 damage in the background footage, because again, that's just how the game went. But I mean, like, the ship still did fine. It didn't do terrible. It still hung in there. It did over 100,000 damage in the match, which is pretty solid by Tier 9 standards. Nothing amazing. Definitely, for sure. And you can see that when ships aren't at the maximum range of the line, they're around 16, 15 kilometers. For the couple of times I did get that close to the enemy ships, it does fine. It starts fires with the HE. The AP, if you catch a cruiser broadside, it's going to send them back to port pretty quickly. And I mean, I just don't understand why this ship is considered to be so bad. Yes, again, you do have to show an uncomfortable amount of side to get all your guns on target. And I'm not saying, with a superhero you can sit broadside and not care about anything. You can't. But with the way that, with the tools that the ship has and the way that it's meant to be played, it's kind of almost ideal for the current higher tier meta. I mean, you play it just like a Conqueror. It's essentially a Conqueror without another turret on the back of it. And Conqueror is definitely a really solid tier 10 ship. And it's just like a 2/3 of a Conqueror down at tier 9. So, yeah, that's always confused me as to why this ship is considered to be so terrible when it's got great HE, it's got a great reload time on its guns, it's got solid firepower for the tier. It's still quite stealthy. I didn't even talk about the stealth that much, or at all, really. If you put the concealment module on it and you take the commander skill, you're talking about a 12-kilometer detection range on a Tier 9 battleship. So, yeah, like it's literally 12 kilometers. That's kind of crazy in my mind. Again, a Tier 9 battleship with a 12-kilometer detection range, which makes up for the 21-kilometer main battery gun range if you want to take the reload module over the range module, which I would, because again, the guns aren't that accurate. So, trying to dunk on ships from 25 kilometers away isn't really going to happen, and plus the shells do hang in the air for quite some time. But again, when you got a 25-second reload and a 12-kilometer detect, it's pretty solid in my mind. And of course, the super heal that makes it more ideal for having to deal with submarines than some other battleships. But yeah, in my opinion, Lion's a pretty solid Tier 9 ship. I'm not saying it's this amazing ship that's been misunderstood for years. I just think it's pretty solid, and something that certainly shouldn't discourage you from going up the British battleship line at all, especially if you want to get the Conqueror, because Conqueror is, again, a really good Tier 10 in my opinion. But yeah, just want to give my 2 cents on the line. We played it someone's stream last night, got me thinking about the ship. But let me know what you guys think about the line in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Saturday. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 50,000 subscribers, getting very close to that goal, thanks to you guys. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.